So I'm fresh out of university. I got an internship at a company in Umeå, which is about 7 hours north of Stockholm, where I lived previously. So I went, I jumped on it. I got a place, started renting a room out of a apartment. There was other people there too. And started working and got to know my work colleagues. But other than that, I knew no one. I'd never been to Umeå before. And so pretty soon I became lonely. What do I do? Like, I don't know anyone. And especially in Sweden, we don't talk to strangers. That's just not what we do. So yeah, I was in a bad place. and and I talked to some of the guy I was renting my room from. We talked a little bit, and I mentioned I like playing board games. And he's like, "Oh, there's a gaming night every week at this club." And I was like, "Really? That's awesome. That'd be fun to go." It's like, "Yeah, yeah." And then he would go, but not so often. I mean, he wouldn't play so much board games as I think he played Magic the Gathering. So, and we went, and he went with me, and we went the first time, and then I ended up going every week. And it was everything. Like, it's having that to look forward to every week. And we started hanging out. Like, I met some people, we became friends, we started playing outside of that club, and doing other things too. It was a lot of fun. But we still went every week, and it was so much fun. And I have these wonderful memories. So I have this one memory, just like walking in, and there's this foyer first, and no one's there. So you walk through that, and then there's into this bigger room. And there are lots of tables, and there's people sitting. And I started playing with this one person and his people, I guess. I mean, we'd switch around, but I ended up playing with them quite a bit. And I just rounded the corner into the big room, and he would be like, "Emma, we're here." And that's just etched in my brain. I felt such belonging being there and playing games with him and with everyone, but specifically there. It just felt so good. And it was so much fun. This one guy, because he was really into board games, and he'd buy a new game like every week. Not really, but almost. For me, it felt like every week. And I think some of the games is just games he'd probably have for a while, and I hadn't played them. But he would read up on the rules before, so we didn't sit and go through rules like all the time. He would just set it up and wanting to play. Like, he'd prepared, and then he used this opportunity to play with people the games that he had gotten. And I got to play all these new games, and it was so much fun. And we just, I'd found my community. It was so great. So when I then stopped working at I ended my internship, I moved back to Stockholm. I got involved in my local club. And there are many clubs around Stockholm. I got involved with one that was closest to me. It also happened to be one of the biggest clubs in Stockholm when it came to tabletop games. So any sort of physical game, there was definitely board games, but lots of card games, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, the whole community around that. Lots of other ones, Vampire the Eternal Struggle. There was lots of miniature gamers like Warhammer 40k or Malifaux. There were some TV gamers too, actually, so a little bit of screen games. Lots of role-playing sessions going on in this specific corner that was a little bit more quiet. And I started running a beginner board gaming evening once a week. And there's magic around this word, beginner. It's welcoming. Even if you played a lot, if you're not, if you don't feel very confident around it, you're not going to want to come. Unless it says beginner, because then you're like, well, I can come because there's going to be beginners there. And so what happened was people would come and play, not lots of people, mind you, but a little bit every week. And I'd help them and welcome them and show them and help choose game and sort of match people together, which of course is very helpful, specifically in Sweden where you wouldn't talk to strangers. So having someone be like, "Oh, you want to play? Have you played this before?" Sort of, finding out your level, and then be like, "Okay, actually these people are almost done and they're going to want to play a new game and maybe you could join them." Do that sort of thing was very helpful. And at least that's the feedback I got, and it seemed very, very helpful. I also noticed a lot of gamers who would come in who'd sort of sneak over, because there was sort of this half wall. They'd look over, and that's where they played role-playing sessions. And they'd also look around, so that it became a gateway meet for them to come to the beginner board gamings, and then they sort of started doing other things, other games. So it became, a gateway, which I'm fine with. Beginners always going to be a gateway to something else. And it was a lot of fun, and a lot of women as well who felt comfortable coming to my event, and then sneaked over the corner and started playing role-playing and other things. So a lot of fun. I eventually got involved with the board of this club. I actually became head of the board, and I run it with a team, of course. We did for about 3 years. And during that time, I did a lot of things outside the club as well. I mean, managing and keeping an eye on all these different groups was, of course, very interesting and also very tough, because there's, everyone wanted space. You had to think about space, and there might be conflicts we had to solve. And but a lot of fun things too that I could have done as a volunteer, but even more involved as a board member, would be going out on events. And this is something a lot of clubs don't do. And we did it partly because we were encouraged by the store. So we had a collaboration with a store, and we rented from them. So we were in their basement, but it was a really big space, 6 rooms, one of them big enough to have like 100 people in them. And we got that space for in a basement, but still that big of a space, for a good price. And to do that in Stockholm is really hard to do. So we have that in exchange for by running events, we brought customers into their store. There's also almost a need to have that collaboration in Sweden between a store and a club, because a lot of these games are from America, like Magic the Gathering, where you're not allowed to run official tournaments if you're not sanctioned by a store. So we need that collaboration in many senses, and most of the time it was really good. And one of the things they would do, for example, at Sci-Fi World, which is the science fiction fantasy fair in Stockholm, the store would get a space, quite big. But then they'd, haggle for a bit more space to run activities through the club. So they would get space for us at the fair. So we would go to the fair every year, set up some tables and play games with people. And I went year after year. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of things. And similar, we would go to other places with or without the store. So we went to the National Day celebration in the park, in the local park where we were. And if you can, imagine lots of tents, lots of food vendors, lots of people, lots of entertainment. And we'd have our tent there, and it felt so fun to be. Set up our tent, set up some tables, play some games, invite people in. And we do the same thing at a youth festival in one of the suburbs as well. So we did these things every year. We'd go out and we'd tell people about what we do, who we are, and sharing that passion with people, inviting them in, welcoming people to our community. And that just made me feel so warm. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. And building this wonderful community by doing these activities and getting people together is become another passion. So, and with that, you've heard the start of my story, and I welcome you to follow my channel, to follow along on my journey in uniting geeks. Bye.